We have you. All right. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you guys.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, Ty.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. We will start with questions. If you have a question for Ty, just a friendly reminder, please raise your hand within the Zoom platform or send us a chat. We'll be sure to monitor that area as well. And to kick us off, we're going to go to Daryl Kinsey. Daryl, go ahead with your question for Ty.
Ty, Daryl Kinsey Jr., WBGR Sports. I had two questions for you. I'll start with this first question. For you guys outside of the playoffs, there's only 3 races left to try and win your way in. We know how things usually get aggressive down this late in the season. With these short races at Dover this weekend, how aggressive do you think the racing will be back in the mid-pack to try to get up front during these races?
Yeah, I think everybody is 100% all aggressive every week. I think it's the style this new car is kind of brought to the table. I think where the aggression will ramp up is strategy to put yourself up front to where you can kind of use your defenses at the end of the race. So, yeah, I think there's going to be some unique strategies, people trying to pop themselves up to the front maybe near the end of the race or, at the end of these stages, and might put themselves in a vulnerable position to try to get those much-needed points or that stage win or that race win at the end of the race. So I think you're on the right path. I think it's going to the aggression of the overall mindset's going to go up. I know the drivers already drive to their full aggression in every opportunity they get. So it's going to ramp up these next couple weeks. Everybody wanting to get in the playoffs. There's a few spots left for our team. We obviously can't do it on points. We've come very close at Dover though. About my rookie season, I was leading inside 20 to go. So we know that we can do it. We just have to put ourselves in the right position. Hopefully, in this wild time, we don't really know what we're going to have for a setup in a car until we get out there and know the track. So hopefully Saturday and Sunday we can get our car dialed in, that maybe we can be one of those teams that takes one of those chances and gives ourselves the opportunity.
And the second question, looking back at last week at the Daytona road course, would you like to see that track stay around permanently on the schedule?
Certainly. I would like to add more. I enjoy the road course racing. I enjoy the Roval style racing where we're using big tracks, and we got to continue to mix it up. I think the racing is good. It's intense, and it just adds so much more to it when we haven't gone to racetracks for the 500th time. It seems like when all the teams, everybody involved in NASCAR are learning a track or a track surface for the first time. It just it spices it up. It equals the playing field. You get more storylines, and we got to continue to do unique things like that. So I certainly encourage more changes along the lines of the Daytona Roval.
All right, thank you, Ty, and good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take our next question from Mark Guerra with PRN. Mark, go ahead.
Ty, earlier this week, Michael McDowell talked about not only were the increasing temperatures inside the car getting really tough, but almost dangerous. How do you feel about the adjustments they're making to this right side window, and just how tough has the heat become for you guys inside the car?
Ty, I think you're muted.
Ty, I think you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Sorry. It was quite brutal inside the race car, definitely. I think you could see it on everybody's faces when they got out during the red flag, and some of the people communicated it. But I didn't waste any time. I was glad that that caution came out. That strike of lightning, I think, was definitely a godsend that might have helped a lot of us to even finish the race. Luckily, I had my motorhome there. I went straight back and took a cold shower, changed into a fresh suit, put some ice on my body. I knew I only had probably 20, 30 minutes. But I did everything I could to cool my core temperature down, which really helped me to be able to attack at the end of the race, which I don't know if I would have had enough juice in my system to be able to go. And I've certainly been training hard, and I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. I've been training in the 96-degree, 98-degree North Carolina weather, running 4 or 5 miles with elevated heart rate ramp ups in the middle of it. And that was still one of the most brutal things. It's just hard to beat 150, 140 with a ramped up humidity inside of a race car. I wear a heart rate monitor every day, and then in the races as well. And that was one of the highest ones that I had experienced. I typically have a lower heart rate due to a lot of my training, but I was on an average 148 beats per minute for 4 hours in that heat is crazy, and that was around 3,000 calories burned. So it was very brutal. It took my body probably, I'd say, 2 days to really start feeling like I was recovering. And there's we have a driver group chat with NASCAR involved. It's kind of our version of the driver council now. And there's a lot of drivers that chimed in and said, hey, we've got to make a change. And it's really just gotten worse since we've ran the right side windows at the short tracks and road courses. It's not letting heat or the air move around much. It gets very stagnant and steamy inside those cars. So I'm glad that we're finally making a change. Would have liked to have the change last week, but it's changed now, and hopefully this will work. I think it will. It just allows more air to move through the car, which is always a good thing.
Ty, so with that kind of a heart rate, as Michael McDowell was saying, I mean, you guys went from an area where it's tough to, you're almost in a danger zone carrying that kind of heart rate that long, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely around a marathon, athlete's heart rate for that long. A lot of us do train hard to where, we can sustain that. And that's part of who we are, and being a great driver is the work you put into it. But even at that, it's hard to sustain that with your inside your core temperature. It definitely changes a lot of things. You have your hydration and everything that plays into it. And, I feel very confident in my preparation physically every single week. And that was one of the toughest things I've gone through as a driver. And the hard part is recovering for what comes up this week is 2 races that probably other than road courses, I'd say Dover lines up to being one of the most physical racetracks. It's really rough inside the car just because it's so fast and the banking changes. So this will be another test physically, but luckily we're going to take those windows out, so that should help us. And the races are a little bit shorter, so we have that night of recovery. But what you do from Saturday to Sunday is really going to be important to make sure you have the proper energy and your mind is cleared to go race hard on Sunday.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from DeMichael Cole with the Philly Inquirer. Go ahead.
Hey, Ty, you mentioned it briefly earlier, but in 2017, you had a really good race at Dover. Just going back to that race, what did you do well, and how would you have to translate that to the race coming up?
Yeah, I think right out of the gate, we had a solid practice. We hit on some stuff early on there in our rookie season. And to start the race, we were running inside the top 20. But I remember the whole race saying, you guys just give me track position and we're going to be okay. I just had that feeling in the car. And sometimes it clicks like that at racetracks where you just know, okay, I got the feeling in the car that I can drive this car hard. I can keep the speed in it. And Booty did a good job of working the strategy there in that race where we started with inside 60 to go. I think we were running inside around the top 10 or 12, but we took 2 tires, and it was me and Jimmy took 2 tires, and we beat him out on pit road. And I beat him on the restart, I think 2 times in a row, and was able to lead 23 or 24 laps. And I think Kyle Larson was pretty fast that day, and he ran us down, but I think it was inside 20 to go. And we lined up to finish probably 3rd or 4th, and had a bad restart there at the end where there was Speedy Dry still on the track, and didn't have much of a chance to make it off turn 2 on the white flag lap. But I know I can get it done there. I know what it takes to lead there against the best, even on older tires. So it's just a matter of hitting the setup, make sure we have the right combination, and like I said earlier, making sure that we can be aggressive on our calls. And what it takes to be aggressive on your calls is you got to have a car capable of, fighting for it. If your car is not going to handle well and you stay out, you're just putting yourself at a really high risk of ruining a solid finish anyway. So there's a lot that goes into it. That day we had a really solid car that we could go for the risk and let me show what I can do out front.
What's the biggest key to a really good race at Dover?
Patience. I think a lot of it is you obviously every race you got to have a good car. Car is 80% of it these days, close to 90%. But that 10 to 15 mental side of being a driver, of being able to hit your marks every time And Dover is one of those places, like I said, it can be very physically demanding and just exhausting because of the roughness of the track and just everything that goes into it. So you got to be physically there just to take advantage of a strong car. And if you can do that, you really have to just paint the bottom is usually where the fastest cars are. They can roll the bottom with more speed than anybody. And you got to be able to hit that line. It'll be in each corner be 600 times a race. So, so it just takes patience, and you got to be able to be very focused and fight through a lot of distractions, whether it's physical or just the speed of the overall race at Dover.
Okay, we're going to take our question from Bob Pockris. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, Ty. Looking toward Daytona, do you view that moves will be made kind of more or less recklessly, considering its cutoff race?
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what happens in Daytona. I couldn't imagine us being much more reckless and dangerous and aggressive at these super speedways the way the last 3 years have gone. Actually, the past race at Talladega was probably the calmest one that we've seen. But there still seems to be a way that we only finish with about 10 to 12 cars every time. So I don't know how much more we could, make it worse. But I think out of the gate, you're going to see a lot more pressure on people. Like I said earlier, trying to earn those stage points early, and then also doing whatever it takes to win at the end of the race. So I think the end of the race will get a little bit more aggressive coming to the checkered, which is always causes for anxiety and stress when people are really trying to make a move at a place where you're going so fast and it can be so dangerous.
So what will be your philosophy? I mean, if you have a shot to win and get in the playoffs, like how much risk do you take to potentially accomplish that goal?
Yeah, I know that if I can't be there at the end, there's no chance of us making the chase anyways. So my philosophy is pretty much concrete every time I go to a speedway, no matter the situation around me. It's kind of the same process I follow. I got away from it a little bit at Daytona this year because we had such a fast race car. I wanted to get up front, and I couldn't keep our car out of the top 10 there. And all in all, that was one of the worst races we had because with 3 or 4 to go, I was running inside the top 11 or 12 and got in a crash. So the races that I've been very patient, I try to steal stage points if I can at a low risk and bide my time. But I always try to make sure I finish. And, I think that's going to be key in Daytona. Like I said, it's never too late for a crash to happen. You can be running 15th, 16th in a safer position to avoid a crash. And, 12 or 13 cars could get wiped out and you're sitting fourth on the green, white checkered restart, and you have every opportunity in the world to win. I've been sitting there probably 4 out of the last 6 speedways in the top 4 on the last restart of the race, or top 6 in the last restart of the race, having a chance to win. And it's just a matter of, at that point, getting the right push, getting in the right line, and you can win these races. It becomes a lot easier. So you got to be there at the end. You can't take yourself out early just trying to force something to happen. You see that happen a lot. You'll see guys that ride in the back all day, but inside 20 to go, they switch their mind into, okay, it's 20 to go. I got to get up to the front no matter what. And they end up driving right into the crash. You got to be patient, all the way inside to 3 or 4 to go, and line yourself up and just trust what you feel and what you see.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Steve Post. Steve, go ahead with your question.
I appreciate the time. The garage area is always comparison. It's Chevy versus Ford versus Toyota, and even within the Chevy camp, it's Hendrick versus Ganassi within RCR, where you guys are at there. Assess where you guys are at. We've seen great runs. Obviously, Tyler's had some great runs. Kaz had a great run last week. Assess where you guys are at as RCR and your alliance with that team.
Yeah, I think it's. For our team personally, it's been up and down. I think you look at RCR's success this year, they've certainly had a lot stronger year than last year. I think we beat them, almost beat both their cars in the points last year, which was a good year for us. This year, they've been a little bit stronger week in and week out. They've been more consistent. Our approach has been a little bit different this year. I think their approach has been a little bit different this year. But here recently, we've really kind of turned it up. We really had a bad Daytona 500. Where we crashed, but we were really strong all day. And then the next 5 races, we were really strong, having some of our best results that we'd had. Then the pause in the race season with coronavirus hit, and we came out of the gate strong with a 2:19s in Dover and led laps at Darlington, excuse me. And we were really proud of our progress at that point. And then we had probably a 6 race stretch of the worst luck and just not good races that we've probably had since I've been here. And that put us in a deep hole in a time where some guys were able to capitalize. And we had one race at Charlotte where our power steering broke. We had a race, I think the 600. We had a couple pit road issues that put us a couple laps down. We just had constant issues after issues. It wasn't one person or one group of our team, but it was mechanical, mental mistakes that kept taking us out for about 5 weeks in a row. And then we kind of got our feet back under us, and we started having some top 15s and kind of getting back into where we were at the beginning of the season. So now we're kind of just pulling ourselves out of this hole a little bit. We've had a solid string of races. It's late in the season, but our goal is to try to get ourselves back in that top 24 in points. We're really reeling these guys in. I think at one point it was a 40 or 50 point gap to get into 25th, and I think we're only 16 to 18 points from there now. So we're turning it on as far as what we know we need to accomplish. Our goal was to average top 20s, inside the top 20 at bigger tracks, and probably inside top 18s at short tracks. And if you look lately, when we haven't had mechanical or mental issues during a race, we've finished inside the top 20 almost every single weekend at these bigger tracks. So we have improved in a lot of ways. We're battling out of a hole of a 5 or 6 week stretch, but in our season, yes, we want to make the chase, but there's still 13 races to go. And our goal is long term. We want to keep improving, get higher in the points. We know we have to win a race to get ourselves in the chase. We're not going to point ourselves in. We kind of knew that at the beginning of the year. So we're just looking for overall improvement, getting one step better every time we hit the racetrack, and we've improved. We hit a little lull in the middle of the season, but we've certainly improved. We'd like to have a better outcome than what we've had, but I think the overall, the Chevys, the Camaro ZL11 LE has been a stronger car for all of us week in and week out. But it is hard, when you have a pandemic. There's not a whole lot of developing we can do as a race team. We're quite a small operation, so to try to keep up in these kind of times, when you're splitting your shop and you got guys working all night, one shift, and then guys working through the day that can't see each other. We have 47 employees trying to make this happen, so it's a tough thing to keep up with, but we've been able to get our feet back under us, so to speak, after a little bit of a rough stretch, and starting to get it back going again.
Okay, we're going to take one final question from Jeff with Empire Sports. Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, Ty. Thanks for joining us today. Just to bounce off that one a little bit, this is your 4th season over there at the number 13. So it's been so hard, it feels like, to see a single car team succeed at the highest level in NASCAR the past couple of years. We've seen plenty of those shut down. So what do you think has been the key behind such a strong relationship between you and the number 13 squad, and what does the future hold for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think commitment to begin with, for 4 years to be committed to a driver starts with a very committed sponsor in Geico that's been with Germain Racing for a long time. And we've got to do all that we can to make it make sense for them. They've believed in me for the past 4 years to go out and give my best and help improve the team. And just having, long-term mindset in all this and trying to grow. It's very hard nowadays in NASCAR for a single car team with less funding than other teams. It's really hard unless you want to, your owner has to pile in a bunch of money and to run the model the right way to where you're not, losing money just to run good. You have to be efficient. You have to do things right. And sometimes that comes at a cost of development. So you have to be a perfectionist as a driver and a crew chief and a team to capitalize on the days where the guys that, have a lot more capital, I guess, in a race team, and they'll have a lot more resources when they make mental mistakes that you can capitalize. When they crash out, you capitalize. And you can't afford to go out and crash 4 or 5 weeks in a row because you don't have enough cars to do that. And you can't develop and make your cars better if you do that. So you have to race different, you have to prepare different, and you have to see the sport different. The model is very, very tough right now for single car teams. I'm hoping that NASCAR is going to change it and help on it. But it needs to change for one car teams to be more successful that haven't already been, at the top level of the sport, or doesn't have an incredible amount of funding to kind of leapfrog into the top spots. You see the guys who are single car teams that take a big jump from maybe where we're running in the field to running up in the top 5 and top 10 or winning races. And you see, 4 or 5 years down the road, they're having to shut the doors. I think it's just a clear picture of what it's taking to have to do that. And if you don't have 3 or 4 teams to spread the wealth or grow the wealth of the overall team with big name sponsors and a lot of money behind the effort, it's just not a model that's going to survive long term. I know, but the thing is, you have teams like Germain Racing with Geico behind them that have been around for a long time because they're committed to the sport and seeing it through and seeing a day where our team can equalize. And there's good things happening in the future with our sport, with the future of the car that are supposed to cut costs. I think we have to stay with the model of what we're running and learning with right now in NASCAR with these single day shows. It's saving a ton of money. It's helping teams like us. We won't see the full benefit, but another 2 years down the road, it takes a while to kind of catch up. But if we can show up and race on race day, or maybe do a 15-minute practice session on race day where we shake down our cars and we only have to bring one car to the racetrack, we buy less tires, we don't have to do hotel rooms, rental cars. There's so much expense that can be saved over time. And then you have a car that's more common parts that's supposed to be cheaper in general coming in, I guess now 2022. You can start seeing teams like our team, get to the level that we need to be in. And that's where NASCAR has to get to, or else it's unfortunately going to continue to go in the way that we've seen the last couple of years, where you have teams that just can't hang on anymore and they can't survive in this kind of environment. So I believe in our sport and the direction it's going with. I know everyone has a mindset to make it better, but we just have to get there. We have to do everything that it takes. We have to do it as media. We have to do it as drivers and the sport in general. We have to help these middle to back end teams have more exposure, more time, and stop being so heavily focused on the top 3 cars running every week. There's stories to tell with drivers like myself who race from, could be 25th to 18th. There's huge stories to tell within those races. There's big wins for those teams that never get mentioned. There's a lot that goes on. I think the Netflix documentary of F1 has done a good job their first couple years of featuring middle to back end teams. That has given a lot of interest to that sport because you don't get to hear those stories enough. So we've got to do more to bring up these single car teams where you don't know the stories as well. You don't know all the effort as well. A lot of the broadcasts focused on the front end guys, and that's all you get to see. We've got to do more things. Maybe it's random draw through the whole field where it does so much. I know it did so much for us to finish 19th at Darlington, and then the field flipped and we got to start on the pole for a race, or start on the front row for a race. And then I got to lead, 12 or 13 laps, showcase what I can do out front of a field on restarts and beat guys like Joey Logano 3 or 4 times on a restart and get that exposure for our team. We have to do things like that to strengthen the whole field. We can only get better as a sport if we all get better. We can't just keep focusing on the big end teams and the guys running up front week in and week out. So if we want the sport to thrive, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of focus throughout the field.
Thank you for that, Ty. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, we're going to squeeze in one final question. Apologize about that. Alex, go ahead with your question and we'll wrap with you.
Thank you so much, Ty. I appreciate your time. I just thought of this, but I'm wondering, how is Austin doing? Have you been talking to him recently, like with the whole COVID test, and how is he feeling right now?
I don't know how he's feeling right now. He actually called me kind of the day before the day he got tested and told me that he wasn't feeling good, that he got tested, that, I'm sure it'll be, news cycle if he fails. He just kind of gave me a heads up. He said he just felt, he had felt kind of achy and not great. but he didn't have anything too severe. And I texted him earlier this week just checking how he feels. He said he had gotten a workout in, so he'd felt a lot better. He's just kind of getting his energy fully back. But and that was earlier this week, so I know how he is. If he was working out, he's probably feeling great for this weekend, and he's cleared medically, so I'm sure he's ready to go. And yeah, it's it's crazy. Crazy times right now, and everyone's got to be careful. Everybody's got to do their part, not only to protect their jobs, but to protect their family. I have a wife and a daughter, and my wife's pregnant right now, so it's a scary time. We all have to do what we can as far as just wearing our mask and washing our hands and just being aware. I think awareness is key, just to keeping yourself safe, but also knowing that there's so much that's not really in our control, is whether you're going to get it or not, but you have to do everything that you can to minimize your exposure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yep. Thanks.
Hi, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best of luck this weekend in Dover.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And to the media on the line, just a friendly reminder, we will have video and audio from today's Zoom. Media availability is available on NASCARmedia.com later today, and we'll see you guys in a couple hours for post-race. So if you have any questions, please let us know. We look forward to talking with you later. Bye.